Hello and welcome. Tonight, following the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in some parts of the northeast, Senate asked the federal government to establish a military base in Hong local government area of Adamawa State. Department of State Services denies involvement in the controversial arrest of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya in June 2021, says its operations are limited to Nigeria's territorial borders. Vice President Kashim Shettima assures the people and government of Taraba State of the federal government's support to optimize the vast natural resources in the state. And the UN says no aid has yet been distributed in Gaza despite aid lorries starting to cross the border after an 11-week blockade.
On business news tonight, Central Bank unveils AI-driven baseline standard to improve anti-money laundering practices in Nigeria's financial sector.
On sports, Tottenham Hotspur have won their first silverware in 17 years, beating Manchester United by a lone goal to win the Europa League trophy.
Representatives ask federal government to intervene and
from the nation's capital,
in Saudi Arabia
ask federal government to intervene and rescue Nigerians living in Saudi Arabia who are affected by the country's recent reforms.
We begin from the National Assembly, where the Senate has asked the federal government to establish a military base in Hong local government area of Adamawa State. Now, this follows growing concerns over renewed Boko Haram attacks in the area and across other parts of the northeast. Now, the call came during today's plenary after a motion sponsored by Senator Aminu Abbas from Adamawa State was debated on the floor. The lawmakers warned that the resurgence of insurgent activities is threatening the safety of thousands of residents. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezioke, reports.
As lawmakers settle down for the resumption of plenary, one issue that has plagued the minds of lawmakers is the security situation in the country.
Attacks on communities.
In a matter of urgent national importance, Senator Iya Abbas, in a motion, harped on the resurgence of Boko Haram in parts of the northeast.
The neighboring local government of Gombe has as well been under Boko Haram attacks since on 17th of January 2025. 5 people were killed on the 2 attacks on the local government.
There is a resurgence of the Boko Haram insurgency to the extent that they attack our military formations, dislodge them, and cut away military equipment.
However, Senator Siriake Dixon kicks against the move, warning that the Senate might be overstepping its constitutional boundaries.
I just wanted to express that caution.
Your additional prayer is noted.
To say that the National Assembly cannot direct, that will be misconstruing. Even the president cannot, despite the fact that he has all the powers for effective administration and whatever, but he must be empowered by the National Assembly. So we have not crossed the line.
Those in support that this be read a second time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate subsequently called for the establishment of a military base in Hong local government area.
The informal sector is usually...
Separately, a bill seeking to regulate informal employment and license private agencies is debated.
Many jobs in the informal labor market in Nigeria still experience decent work deficit. Employees in the informal sector are often seen as having no rights and are not treated fairly by their employers. All of this bill seeks to correct.
What the bill is seeking for is a private sector to regularize the employment and encourage and assist the federal government in employing more people in the labor market.
The bill is self-explanatory. It is something that we have to look at the pro and the cons.
A bill for an act to regulate and formalize the employment of domestic workers, apprenticeships, interns, and other informal sector employees, and to empower the National Directorate of Employment to issue license monitor privately owned employment agencies in Nigeria, for other related matters 2025, SB 629, second reading taken.
The Senate also raised alarm over the growing practice of chemical ripening of fruits put forward in a motion by Senator Anthony Okorie. They resolved to summon NAFDAC to deepen investigation on the matter. Aside calling for investigation, the Senate has also resolved to amend existing laws to criminalize the use of hazardous substances to ripen fruits. It also proposed stiffer penalties for offenders to serve as a deterrent, as well as safeguard the health of Nigerians. From the National Assembly, Gloria Omezuke, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, concerns about the resurgence of killings by Boko Haram and other armed groups in the north continue to mount as elders and the youth from the region are calling for a renewed strategy to address the situation. While a coalition of young people from the region protested at the Unity Fountain in Abuja to draw government's attention to the situation, elders from the region, under the auspices of Northern Bridge Builders Forum, are asking President Bola Tinubu to give the situation the attention it deserves.
A group of young people drawn from states across northern Nigeria gather at the Unity Fountain in the nation's capital to protest what they described as the continued killings in the region. Displaying placards and voicing their concerns, the protesters asked the federal government to urgently address the security challenges.
While we applaud the government for its effort to establish the forest guard, we also stress the importance of equipping these forces with the necessary tools and resources to effectively defend our communities. In light of the continued threat posed by killers hiding in the bushes, we demand that the forest guard be adequately armed and prepared to confront these perpetrators.
Parts of northern Nigeria, including Benue, Borno, Zamfara, Kogi, Kebbi and Taraba states have been experiencing different forms of insecurity, leading to displacement across northern Nigeria. The same concern is voiced by northern elders under the auspices of the Northern Bridge Builders Forum. They raise concerns over the regrouping of Boko Haram and other armed groups in the region.
The forum recognizes that its insertion, the administration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has set its mind towards prioritizing the safety and security of Nigerians, and most especially the people in the northern part of this country. The forum, however, wishes to invite the President's attention to the resurgence of the activities of this criminal group, with deadly effect. In the recent times, the violent act of killings of humans and wanton destructions of properties and farmland unleashes on citizens.
However, the group appreciates the efforts of the government to address insecurity and is urging Nigerians to support the efforts.
The forum urges Nigerians to be a little more patient, understanding, and supportive of the policies and reform being initiated and pursued by Mr. President.
The groups also called for support for the setting up of the forest guards to complement the efforts of security agencies.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetukun, has ordered investigation into the shooting that led to the death of a teenager identified as Kehinde Alade in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. A statement by the force spokesperson, Olumuyiwa Adejobi, says the police officer involved in the shooting has been taken into custody. He adds that the IGP assures members of the public that justice will be served while pledging transparent investigation into the matter. The statement also reiterates that the process will be transparent and its findings will be made public to ensure justice is duly served, as Mr. Egbetukun expresses his heartfelt condolences to the family of the young man who was killed. Meanwhile, the police boss also condemns the unprovoked attack on police operatives at a community in Ovia Northeast local government area of Edo State on Monday. The operatives, who are members of the Force Intelligence Department Intelligence Response Team, FIDIRT, were transit from Lagos through Edo when they encountered a mob that had blocked the road immediately after the University of Benin. The mob, in an unlawful display of aggression, attacked the officers with stones, sticks and other weapons and objects, inflicting injuries on 2 police personnel. The IGP therefore warns against acts of lawlessness and unprovoked aggression against its personnel who are committed to maintaining law and order. The courts and the Department of State Services has distanced itself from the controversial arrest of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, in Kenya, insisting its operations are limited strictly to Nigeria's territorial borders. This emerged during the cross-examination of a prosecution witness, an intelligence officer from the service. Just before the commencement of the cross-examination, the trial judge warned against live-streaming court proceedings and the negative use of social media in the trial. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, arrives to Federal High Court Abuja for the continuation of his trial. The day's proceedings began with the lead counsel for the defense, Mr. Kanu Agabi, informing the court of a letter by the lead counsel for the prosecution, Mr. Adegboyega Awomolo, about illegal live streaming of court proceedings. He recommended that phones be banned from the courtroom, lamenting the action of a member of the defense team, Mr. Aloy Ejimako, who is alleged to be posting misleading information on social media. In his intervention, Justice James Omotosho said he granted an accelerated hearing of the case in the interest of all parties, particularly for the accused, who has been in custody for too long. The judge charged all parties in the case to act professionally to ensure progress in the case. He further warned Mr. Ejimako to stop conduct that may warrant the disbarring of a lawyer. Justice Omotosho therefore charged all parties in the case to avoid acts that amount to misconduct and watch what they post on social media. The cross-examination of the prosecution witness resumed shortly after by Paul Erokoro, who conducted proceedings on behalf of the defense. The witness explains the sources of intelligence of the Department of State Service, including human, social media, among others. Probed further, the witness said he was told by Nnamdi Kanu that he was kidnapped from Kenya and returned to Nigeria in 2021. On allegations that the DSS carried out the act, the witness stated that the agency lacks the powers to effect arrests beyond Nigeria's borders. The witness asked that Mr. Kanu, via his Radio Biafra broadcast, incited violence, including during the NSAS protest in 2020, adding that the defendant expressed readiness to make Biafra possible by all means. The DSS officials stressed the inciting comments made by the IPOB leader, which led to the burning of a police station in Ebonyi State, a Lagos State High Court, and the cargo shed of the Murtala Mohammed Airport. At some points during cross-examination, Paul Erokoro sought adjournment, informing the court that there is a video clip that the defense seeks to tender. He requested for some time to make that possible. Meanwhile, the court admitted as evidence certified true copies of judgments of 3 fundamental rights enforcement lawsuits instituted by Nnamdi Kanu. These are those of the Abia State High Court, Federal High Court Umuahia Division, and another by the High Court of Enugu State. Justice James Omotosho subsequently adjourned the case till Thursday, 22nd May, for the conclusion of the cross-examination of the second prosecution witness. Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, Vice President Kashim Shettima assures the people and government of Taraba State of the federal government's support to optimize the vast natural resources in the state. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Following the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in some parts of the northeast, Senate asked the federal government to establish a military base in Hong local government area of Adamawa State. Department of State Services denies involvement in the controversial arrest of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu in Kenya in June 2021, says its operations are limited to Nigeria's territorial borders. Vice President Kashim Shettima assures the people and government of Taraba of the federal government support to optimize the vast natural resources in the state. And the UN says no aid has yet been distributed in Gaza despite aid lorries starting to cross the border after an 11-week blockade. Staying with the courts, Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court Abuja has ordered service of court documents on the 2007 presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, ADC, Professor Pat Utomi, in relation to a suit pending against him over his announced plan allegedly to establish a shadow government in the country. In a suit filed by the Department of State Services, it argued that not only is the planned shadow government an aberration, it constitutes a grave attack on the Constitution and a threat to the current democratically elected government. Justice Omotosho granted an ex parte motion argued by the counsel to the DSS, Akinlolu Kehinde, ordering service of court documents on Professor Utomi, listed as the sole defendant, in his Lagos address by means of courier service. The plaintiff gave Professor Utomi's Lagos address as number 6 Balarabe Musa Crescent off Samuel Manua Street, Victoria Island, Lagos. The judge subsequently adjourned the case to June the 25th for hearing, before which Professor Utomi is expected to have filed his defense. In the suit instituted on May the 13th, the DSS expressed concern that such a structure, styled as a shadow government, if left unchecked, may incite political unrest, cause intergroup tensions, and embolden other unlawful actors or separatist entities to replicate similar parallel arrangements, all of which pose a grave threat to national security. Vice President Kashim Shettima has assured the people and government of Taraba State of the federal government's support to optimize Taraba's vast natural resources, which is endowed with for economic prosperity. The Vice President gave the assurance at the first Taraba International Investment Summit held in Jalingo, the state capital. During the event, which had prominent personalities in attendance, Governor Agbu Kefas says his administration will continue to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
It's the first ever Taraba International Investment Conference, and not surprisingly, it parades some of the nation's top government and business executives.
Just a question of our country on an equal keel. May God hear our prayers. Did I hear say amen?
The president is represented by none other than the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. State governors, religious and traditional leaders are also present.
I like the way the governor has been working.
In addition to that, Africa's richest man, Aliko Dangote, and billionaire businessman Tony Elumelu make up part of the dignitaries at the event. And it's straight to the business of the day, as the state governor highlights why Taraba is seeking investors at this crucial time.
What I will say now is that Taraba is peaceful, Taraba is safe, Taraba has huge human resources, Taraba has huge natural resources, and today I have created a good business enabling environment for all investors.
He didn't have to wait for long before those that have been in the business of investing for decades aligned with his vision.
The reason I love investment and I preach investment wherever I go to is that it has a lot of benefits. First, it helps to engage our young ones. I am a champion for our young ones, champion of African youth, Nigerian youth. I believe strongly that employment is one sure way of empowering our young ones.
I want to give a word of advice, Your Excellency. The only way for you to attract foreign investments or investors is by having local investors. Domestic investors are the ones that actually attract foreign investment.
Traditional and religious leaders also had a thing or two to say about the state and areas they believe require government attention.
Today, we have that confidence, yes, somebody somewhere is doing the right thing, being very pragmatic in handling the affairs of Taraba, and everybody can come to Taraba peacefully and invest.
Focus on the strength of Taraba, focus on the strength of the human and material resources you have in Taraba,
and smart money will chase you.
Taraba State's strategic position and location should be very inviting to investors. As the state government continues to develop its infrastructure and human capital, we hope that Taraba State will stand as a promising destination for global investors seeking sustainable and profitable ventures.
Although this is a business event, when it was time for the Vice President to speak, he enumerates some of the administration's efforts at attracting investment into the country and why Taraba is crucial to the government's vision.
This summit, in essence, is not just a call for investment. It is a call for partnership. The wealth of resources in Taraba is too vast to be reduced to mere statistics. What we seek are collaborators, partners in progress. The federal government is fully committed to supporting every step you take after this gathering. We are not distant observers. We are here with you, ready to provide the institutional backing to turn ideas into accomplishments.
Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, drawing experience from his private business, also speaks of the opportunities that are waiting to be tapped in the state.
As a private businessman myself, I recognize that investments, foreign and domestic, drive economic growth and development. The government is urged to implement measures that will address investment risks and implement interventions that eliminate bottlenecks in business registration processes.
With the array of speakers on display at this conference, it is clear that the Taraba state government has a lot to draw from and is set to work immediately on attracting investors into the state.
It's been 3 days of transformative discussions as public relations professionals converged in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, for the 2025 NIPR week to reshape the public relations landscape. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, appeals to public relations professionals to key into ongoing efforts and reforms aimed at rebranding the nation's reputation and attracting investors into the country. The event also saw the installation of the chairman of the Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, as pioneer chairman of the Nigerian Reputation Management Group.
Chairman of the Channels Media Group, Dr. John Momo, arrives at the Government House in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, for a courtesy call on Governor Umar Eno, before heading to the venue of the 2025 Nigeria Public Relations Week. The governor commends Channels Television for its work in churning out unbiased national and international reports and distinguishing itself as a vanguard of truth and a voice of the people.
We just want to say thank you and want to let you know how much we admire what Channels is doing. Being a vanguard of truth and representing the people. Of course, here they say you're the fourth estate of the realm. You watch for the people, the things you do on Channels, the truth you seek to pursue, the balanced story that we get. And sometimes, and again, you see that Channels just likes to present both sides in their issues, and I've always watched with admiration.
Dr. Momo then joins more than 1,000 public relations professionals who converge on Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, for the 2025 Nigeria Public Relations Week. This annual event, the largest gathering of PR practitioners in the country, draws participants from all sectors, including various security agencies.
Chairman, Body of Advisors of the
President and Chairman of the Nigeria Institute of Public Relations Council, Dr. Ike Neliahu, emphasizes the critical role of effective communication in governmental success.
The challenge of leadership in Nigeria is partly due to lack of effective communication, because leaders don't take responsibility in sharing their views and their visions with those they are leading. They assume that they know what the people want, and in some cases they fail to lead because they have not done their homework.
Representing the Akwa Ibom State government, the Deputy Governor, Senator Akon Eyakenyi, underscores the importance of public relations in shaping positive public opinion and fostering development.
Here in Akwa Ibom State, we have a robust relationship with the media and public relations practitioners. We see them as partners in our efforts to galvanize our people to arise and take charge of their destiny.
The Minister of Information, Mr. Mohammed Idris, assures participants that the federal government's ongoing reforms are designed to bolster the economy for the benefit of all citizens.
At a time that you are inviting the world to come to you, also be telling the world that your country is not ready for them. You cannot promote your country if you continue to say bad things about your country. Of course, constructive criticisms are always welcome. I'm calling on all Nigerians, the young and the old, the media professionals and everyone. We must come together and speak good about our country. This is the only country that we have.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Central Bank unveils AI-driven baseline standard to improve anti-money laundering practices in Nigeria's financial sector. That's on Business News. Please join us again.
We are back in the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives is urging the federal government to intervene and rescue Nigerians living in Saudi Arabia who are affected by recent reforms by the authorities. The resolution was reached after considering a motion by Honorable Bello Shehu drawing attention to the plight of Nigerians after the Saudi authorities in August 2024 revised its labor laws, which directly affects Nigerians who have lived in the country for years and are now unable to afford the new fees for visa renewals. Meanwhile, following a motion on the need to address the non-payment of pension increment and withholding of approved palliative by the government, the House of Representatives is calling for the immediate implementation of all approved pension increments. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry Kumi has more.
A new legislative week commences in the Green Chamber as lawmakers reconvene for the first plenary session of the week. Honorable Bello Shehu is quick to draw the attention of the House to unfolding events in Saudi Arabia affecting Nigerians living in that country.
Saudi authorities in August 2024 introduced significant reforms. The reform have affected so many Nigerians living in Saudi Arabia for years with large families. The reforms had pushed some of them out of their jobs, while some of them are faced with high fees for renewal of their documents and other permits. They can't afford renewal and can't exit the country as they possess no means of paying accumulated overstayed.
The prayers of the motion are adopted as the House Committee on Foreign Affairs is mandated to follow up on the matter. The attention of the House is also drawn to the non-implementation of the approval in 2023 by the President of a 25,000 naira wage award palliative and an additional 32,000 naira pension increase for federal pensioners.
It was a gesture by the federal government to the pensioners. They further now said that 32,000 naira be approved and increased by the Federal Executive Council to their money as a form of palliative. But the implementers, the Ministry of Finance and other agencies that suppose carry out this assignment by paying the money, they have not paid up to date.
Two health-related motions are then taken and adopted as the House calls for urgent action to avoid health disasters in Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory.
The House is alarmed that a 4-year power outage has crippled water system, vaccine storage and health facilities, directly fueling the spread of cholera. The House therefore resolves to urge the Federal Ministry of Health and NCDC to deploy surveillance teams, medical resources and awareness campaigns to Badagry, West LCDA immediately to contain the outbreak.
The House know that the alarming strain on the healthcare system in the Federal Capital Territory, with government hospitals and medical facilities being severely overstretched, resulting in a critical shortage of bed spaces and medical personnel.
Meanwhile, after considering a separate motion, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate operational issues related to driver's license issuance, revenue generation and usage within the last 3 years. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Away from the National Assembly, in the aftermath of the recent glitch that plagued the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, the board has announced plans to conduct a mop-up examination for candidates who were unable to sit for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, UTME, due to various reasons. The Registrar of JAMB, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, who made the announcement in Abuja during a stakeholders meeting with chief external examiners, state technical advisors and representatives of civil society organizations, says the board regrets the malfunction that occurred during the 2025 UTME.
It is a stakeholders engagement as the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board meets chief external examiners and representatives of civil society organizations at the board's headquarters in Abuja. The meeting begins on a cheery note as the board announced plans for a mop-up examination for those who missed the initial and rescheduled examination.
I thank the students, just as people said, because you have about 95% attendance of all the, of course, is a very reasonable attendance. And we had also taken decision immediately that all those who miss that examination for whatever reason, the 5-point-something% that or 6% that miss the examination, we will, during mop-up, you know, we normally do annual mop-up throughout the country for those for one reason or the other. So we will package them with the mop-up. And it is for that reason we have also decided that even those who miss the earlier initial exam, who are absent, we will extend this opportunity to them to also receive.
Reiterating his commitment to integrity and national duty, the registrar dismissed insinuations of bias in handling the crisis.
I say it for the often time that there with no conspiracy theory is relevant in this case. There is nothing to say North, South, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. Something happened, but people have been doing something well for years, and something just went wrong. I would not throw them under the bus, no.
For those affected by the glitches, a minute silence is observed.
May our gentle soul rest in perfect peace.
Unperturbed by the glitches, chief external examiners commend the registrar's handling of the technical glitches.
Those who built the Titanic and posted that it will never happen, but you know what happened. So when we are dealing with technologies, we can expect accidents anytime. But our ability to overcome the situation is what makes it different.
As the meeting continued behind closed doors, the board criticized those questioning the swift rescheduling of the exam for affected candidates, explaining the tight academic calendar that UTME candidates must adhere to.
Second chance for students. Well, that's it from the nation's capitals. Back now to Ayotunde for the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Millicent. NEM Insurance PLC has held its 55th annual general meeting, during which the board presented results believed to reinforce the company's leadership position in the industry. The group reported a 78% increase in profit, totaling 33.7 billion naira, and celebrated a historic milestone of surpassing 100 billion naira gross premium income. Group Chairman Mr. Tokwe Smart described the 2024 performance as a testament to the company's commitment to creating innovative products and delivering value.
Thank you very much.
For the 55th time, the board and shareholders of NEM Insurance convened for their annual general meeting. Top item on the agenda is to receive and review the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2024. Shareholders review the documents provided as directors and auditors present their reports. The visual graphic highlights the group's impressive performance, showing a revenue increase of 88%, a profit rise of 74%, and a 67% growth in total assets.
The company has done incredibly well.
According to the chairman, the outstanding results were driven by the company's milestone record of gross premium income of over 100 billion naira.
Because this is the first time in the history of any general insurance company in Nigeria to record that kind of incredible number. 100 billion. We were 65 billion in 2023, and then we moved from 65 billion to over 100 billion. And so we are quite happy, we are delighted, and when you look at the kind of dividend too we are giving out, we moved from 65 kobo in 2023 to 1 naira. That is a record on its own. So
following the company's performance, the board's recommendation of a dividend payment of 100 kobo per ordinary share of 1 naira each is approved, amounting to 5.1 billion naira.
If we look historically at where we're coming from, we will realize that NEM has come a long way. Last year, we paid 60%. NEM paid 60 kobo. This year, NEM is paying 1 naira. That's a quantum leap. And let us not forget that there are a lot of things that, a lot of plans that NEM has, and we will need to strategize and to apply our resources intelligently.
The highest so far this year is NEM Insurance, and we really appreciate for that. Getting good returns on our investments, and we hope that the trend will continue in NEM Insurance PLC. We are very happy.
As NEM Insurance attributes its success to the efforts of shareholders and the dedicated workforce, the company reaffirms its commitment to pushing boundaries and maintaining a growth trajectory within the industry.
Business News is up next with Dominic Iwiwu.
Thank you, Ayotunde. On Business News, the central bank has unveiled a draft baseline standard aimed at improving automated anti-money laundering practices for banks and other financial institutions in the country. In a statement released on its website, the CBN says the framework aims to encourage financial institutions to adopt emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data analytics to detect, prevent, and report suspicious activities in real time. On implementation and compliance, the CBN mentions that financial institutions shall align with AML solutions with these baseline standards within 12 months of the issuance of these standards. The Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, NCDMB, says the Africa Energy Bank will create more funding availability for indigenous companies. The Executive Secretary of NCDMB, Mr. Felix Ogbe, made this known today at the ongoing 5th edition of the Nigerian Oil and Gas Opportunity Fair in Yenagoa, the capital of Bayelsa State. The Africa Energy Bank, with its proposed headquarters in Abuja, is expected to be open for business before the end of the second quarter of this year. Mr. Ogbe also highlighted that since the establishment of the NCDMB, it created a 10-year roadmap to deepen local participation and increase the participation of Nigerians in the activities of the oil and gas industry. The domestic stock market failed to consolidate on the gains recorded in Tuesday's session, no thanks to profit taken in some banking stocks. Willie Bong has the details of midweek trading on the NGX.
Welcome to the stock market report. Now, from a positive performance that we saw at intraday, the market ended up in the red. Yes, the all share index traded lower 0.1% today, still at 109,000 level, and this follows losses in some banking stocks. Fidelity Bank is not left out, but let's take a closer look and see how the stocks performed in the banking sector. The figures we see: First Holdco down 1.21%, UBA down 1.74%. Access Holdings and Zenith also in the red. GTCO is the only outlier here. It's up 0.65%. At intraday, traded as high as 71 naira. But that's a good one for GTCO. Investors are really bullish on this. But let's look at how it's performed on the index, the overall impact on the index. We see the banking index nearly 1% down, 0.82%. But we just hope that, tomorrow will be positive for that counter. Consumer goods, we see Nestle outperforming there, up gained over 140 naira today, and Nestle gained over 140 naira today, and that boosted the consumer goods counter. O&O pulled back the oil and gas sector, and that's why we're seeing it down 0.48%. Let's hope that tomorrow we'll see a rebound for stocks, and that's the stock market report. Will Ibang signing out.
News at 10. Director, I forgot to bring your...
Many thanks, Dominic. Millions of civilians in Gaza are desperately waiting for aid to get to their doorsteps after Israel lifted an 11-week blockade on Sunday. Now, Israeli officials say 93 aid trucks entered Gaza on Tuesday after a thorough security inspection, while officials from the UN say the supplies are sitting in warehouses and humanitarian teams have not been able to distribute the aid yet. It's Simon Pusey with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studios.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The United Nations says no aid has yet been distributed in Gaza despite aid lorries starting to cross the border after an 11-week blockade. Israeli officials said 93 trucks entered Gaza on Tuesday carrying aid including flour, baby food, medical equipment and pharmaceutical drugs. But the UN said that despite trucks reaching the Palestine side of the Kerem Shalom crossing, no aid has been distributed so far. A UN humanitarian chief has said 14,000 babies in Gaza could die in the next 48 hours if lorries of aid do not reach communities in the Strip.
The situation is dire. The real test of the words will be whether we can get that aid in. We are there on the border right now. We have thousands of trucks ready to go. We know how to do this. We've done it before, and we are demanding that the world back us in pushing Israel to let us get in and reach those people who are starving right now. And let's be clear, those 5 trucks are just sat on the other side of the border right now. They've not reached the communities they need to reach. And, let me describe what is on those trucks. This is baby food, baby nutrition. There are 14,000 babies that will die in the next 48 hours unless we can reach them. This is not food that Hamas are going to steal. No, we run the risk of looting. We run the risks of being hit as part of the Israeli military offensive. We run all sorts of risks trying to get that baby food through to those mothers who cannot feed their children right now because they're malnourished.
A Russian missile strike on a training exercise in Ukraine's Sumy border region has killed 6 servicemen and wounded more than 10 others. That's according to Ukraine's National Guard. Russia's defense ministry earlier released this video purporting to show an Iskander missile attack on the training camp. The Sumy region has come under repeated bombardment after Ukraine launched a months-long occupation of part of Russia's neighboring Kursk region from there.
This right here, the Golden Dome for America, is game changer.
The Canadian government says it is in talks with the US over joining its proposed Golden Dome missile defense system aimed at countering next-generation aerial threats. Prime Minister Mark Carney's office said there were active discussions including on existing and new programs like the Golden Dome, which is similar to Israel's Iron Dome. US President Donald Trump unveiled the plan for the new missile defense system, announcing an initial price tag of $25 billion, although the government has estimated it could end up costing 20 times that.
This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term. So we'll have it done in about 3 years. Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world and even if they are launched from space.
Good morning, class of 2025.
Columbia University President Claire Shipman has been booed during a graduation ceremony. Chants of Free Mahmoud were heard, referring to Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University graduate who was detained by U.S. immigration officials in March over his role in pro-Palestinian protests on campus. President Trump has called past pro-Palestinian protests anti-Semitic, but student activists deny this. A former Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo has been sentenced to a decade's forced labor for corruption. Augustin Matata Ponyo was found guilty of embezzling around $245 million of public funds by the Congolese Constitutional Court. Alongside the former governor of the Democratic Republic of Congo's central bank, Matata's lawyer says that the ruling was unfair and politically motivated. Part of the funds were taken from a major agricultural development intended to tackle the country's chronic food shortages.
Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
And a man has been arrested by police after allegedly trying to scale a cruise ship docked in Sydney Harbour on the weekend. Footage shows the man climbing up the mooring line of the Carnival Adventure cruise in Circular Quay. The 29-year-old was charged with 3 offences relating to unauthorised entry. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Many thanks indeed, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. I'm Kelly Egiya. Tottenham Hotspur have ended their trophy drought after beating Manchester United by a lone goal in the finals of the Europa League. Brennan Johnson's scrambled goal in the 42nd minute ended the 17-year wait in Bilbao. Spurs, who had not won European silverware since 1984, will play in the Champions League next season. While failing to qualify for it is a severe financial setback for United. It was a match between teams languishing in 16th and 17th place after a dismal Premier League campaign. Congratulations are absolutely in order for Spurs. Super Eagles head coach Eric Schell has omitted the likes of Victor Osimhen and Ademola Lookman from the list of players selected for the Unity Cup tournament in London and the friendly against Russia. Kano Pillars forward Ahmed Musa makes a return for the Unity Cup that included Moses Simon, Kelechi Iheanacho, and Wilfred Ndidi in the 25-man squad for the campaign. The tournament involving Nigeria, Jamaica, Ghana, Trinidad and Tobago will be staged at the GTech Community Stadium in Brentford from Tuesday, May 27th to Saturday, May 31st. And for the Russia-friendly, Eric Schell picked 21 players led by Captain William Trues Ekong with fellow defenders Ola Aino and Bright Osayi Samuel, midfielders Fisayo Dele Bashiru and Rafael Oyedika, and forwards Victor Boniface and Sadiq Umar joining a number of picks from the Unity Cup cohorts. However, Musa is not included in the squad for the match that will take place in June 6 in Moscow on Friday. Tennis now. It was a day of personal milestones for Alexander Muller at the Bitpanda Habsburg Open. The 28-year-old Frenchman stunned top seed Alexander Zverev 6-3, 4-6, 7-6 at the clay court ATP 500 to earn the biggest win of his career. Muller was rock solid behind serve and went toe-to-toe with Zverev from the baseline to overcome the world number 3 in a 2-hour, 41-minute epic. Also suffering an upset is American Jessica Pegula. The number 1 seed was knocked out in straight sets by Anna Kalinskaya. Having lost the opening set, Kalinskaya broke through at last 4-6, 6-4 and 6-2 in the Strasbourg second round.
Well, is that going to be the point that turns the match around for Pegula?
And that's sports. I'm Kelly. It's back to Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Kelly. And the main news again. The Senate today asked the federal government to establish a military base in Hong, local government area of Adamawa State. Now, the lawmakers explained that the request became necessary following the resurgence of Boko Haram attacks in some parts of the northeast. Also today, the Department of State Services, the DSS, have denied involvement in the controversial arrest of IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu in June 2021. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. You have a good night.